It's a moment no one saw coming, a young royal breaking tradition. But what led Prince Louis to refuse to call Camilla grandma? In this shocking opening, the royal family's carefully curated image begins to crumble, revealing layers of tension, secrecy, and unspoken emotions. The royal family for centuries has been a symbol of unity, tradition, and unshakable respect. To the outside world, they stand as paragons of composure, a family bound by duty and legacy. But behind the gilded gates of Kensington Palace, a much different story unfolds. Prince Louis, the youngest of the Cambridge children, has always been the mischievous one, the cheeky, impish child who captured the world's heart with his bold antics. Yet beneath his playful demeanor lies a child caught between loyalty to his family and his growing understanding of the complex web of royal relationships. In an unexpected turn, Louis refuses to call Camilla grandma, a seemingly small act of defiance that shakes the foundations of royal tradition. For most, this would be a minor slip, easily overlooked. But for the royal family, where tradition is sacred, this rejection is anything but trivial. In a family where respect for the monarchy's hierarchy is paramount, such an act sends ripples of uncertainty and suspicion through the palace halls. Louis's refusal to acknowledge Camilla in such a familiar way is not just a child's rebellion. It's a seismic shift in the power dynamics of the royal family. Camilla, the new queen consort, had spent years navigating the treacherous waters of public opinion and royal expectations. Her rise to power was not just the culmination of a long and controversial marriage to Charles, but a victory over years of public scrutiny. Yet, in the eyes of one of the youngest members of the royal family, this victory is tainted. Catherine, ever the composed and protective mother, is left to deal with the fallout. At first, she is taken aback by Louis's words. She tries to rationalize it, thinking it could be a phase, a simple misunderstanding. But as the days go by, it becomes evident that there's more to this than just a child's fleeting whim. Catherine, who has always placed her children's well-being above all else, now finds herself caught in the most delicate of situations. She's a mother, a wife, and a member of the royal family, and each of these roles is pulling her in different directions. What does this refusal mean for her son, for her family, for the monarchy itself? Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. As the royals grapple with a new dynamic, Catherine's role as mother and protector comes into sharp focus. But how does she explain this shocking change to the rest of the family? The truth is more complex than anyone imagined. Camilla's journey from controversial outsider to queen consort has been a rocky one. But could her position within the royal family be driving wedges in ways no one expected? For decades, Camilla Parker Bowles was the embodiment of scandal in the royal family's narrative. She was the woman the press dubbed the other woman during the tumultuous marriage of Charles and Diana. Her name was whispered in hushed tones, and her presence was the catalyst for a public spectacle that captured the world's attention. Yet, over time, she became more than just the scandalous figure that the press portrayed. Her eventual marriage to Prince Charles and subsequent rise to queen consort was a testament to her perseverance. But it also revealed the cracks in the royal family's meticulously built facade. For years, Camilla weathered the storm of public opinion. The public's perception of her was often divided. Many saw her as the woman who had irreparably broken the royal family's most iconic union, while others sympathized with her as a woman who had simply been a casualty of love. But the truth was more layered than the tabloids could capture. Behind closed doors, Camilla's personal relationships with her children from her previous marriage and her new role as stepmother to Charles's children were complex, at best. While she was expected to take on the mantle of a loving matriarch, the reality was far more strained. Her relationship with Charles's sons, particularly William, was fraught with tension. William, already burdened with the weight of his mother's legacy, struggled to accept Camilla as part of the royal family. His loyalty to Diana was unwavering, and the public's disdain for Camilla made it all the more difficult for him to reconcile the situation. Camilla's stepmotherly role was also complicated by her own children. Having been through a marriage of her own and raising children with their own expectations and emotions, her relationship with Charles' children was always an uphill battle. It wasn't just about building a connection with them, it was about earning their respect and trust. In the royal family, respect is not easily given. especially when you're seen as the interloper in a family torn by scandal and heartache. This dynamic only deepened when Camilla was thrust into the limelight as queen consort, an elevation that changed everything. While the media spotlight on her shifted from that of a controversial figure to one of admiration and duty, there were underlying currents of discomfort within the family. The most striking of these tensions were between Camilla and Kate. Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, had long been a beacon of grace and decorum within the royal family. But even she was not immune to the growing unease around Camilla's new position. What the public didn't see was the quiet, unspoken friction between the two women. While outwardly they smiled and appeared cordial, Catherine harbored doubts. There was no denying the subtle rivalry between them, as Kate in many ways represented a new chapter for the royal family, one of stability, youthful energy, and a fresh public image. Camilla, on the other hand, carried the weight of past scandals and a controversial relationship with the late Princess Diana. Then there was Harry, who, though distant from the core of royal life now, had never fully embraced Camilla's role. Harry had made it clear, in his own way, that he never fully accepted her as part of the family. Perhaps it was because of his deep loyalty to his mother, or maybe it was the bitter memories of the family's past that still haunted him. But the rift between him and Camilla was undeniable. As Camilla's influence within the royal family grew, the cracks between her and the younger generation of royals became more pronounced. However, the most unexpected tension came from Prince Louis, the youngest of William and Catherine's children. Louis, a child who had always been the carefree, mischievous one, began to develop a distinct aversion to Camilla. As the years went by, Louis, for reasons unknown to the public, refused to address her as grandma. This wasn't a simple act of defiance, it was a clear rejection. The royal family, a place where the importance of duty and respect is instilled from a young age, was now witnessing an act of rebellion from within its ranks. Why had Louis, a young boy with so much love in his heart, drawn such a line in the sand? Could it be the tension between his parents and Camilla that was reflected in his behavior? Or was there something deeper, something more personal, at play? But even as Camilla's influence grows, there's a hidden story that starts to unravel. A story that Catherine is forced to address head-on. What lies beneath the surface of their carefully crafted family? As the Duchess of Cambridge, Catherine's primary duty has always been to protect her children. But this was something else entirely. Why did she feel the need to intervene? And what was she hiding? Catherine had always been the epitome of grace under pressure, the calm face of the royal family. To the public, she was a paragon of maternal devotion, balancing the weight of royal expectations with her role as a loving mother to 3 young children. Her ability to keep everything running smoothly was nothing short of remarkable. But behind the carefully crafted smiles and perfect appearances, Catherine was facing the kind of turmoil no one had seen coming. The family's stability was threatened, not by the usual tabloid rumors or public scandals, but by something far more intimate. Something involving her youngest son, Prince Louis. Her protective instinct was strong. She had always been determined to shield her children from the harsh glare of the public eye. But now, as Louis' refusal to acknowledge Camilla as grandma grew into a deeper issue, Catherine felt the pressure mounting in a way she had never experienced before. It wasn't just a child acting out. This was an act of defiance with profound implications. Louis was a bright and perceptive child, and Catherine had always been attuned to the subtle cues in his behavior. But now, the question hung in the air like a dark cloud. What did this refusal really mean? Was it a sign of something far deeper? Or was Louis simply reacting to the shifting dynamics of a family that, despite its public perfection, was riven with unspoken tensions? The emotional toll on Catherine was undeniable. Balancing her royal duties with the overwhelming responsibility of motherhood was already a delicate act, but this was different. She could no longer ignore the growing unease in her son, nor the pressure it placed on her own shoulders. Raising children in the royal spotlight was no small feat. Every misstep, every growing pain, was magnified under the watchful eyes of the world. Catherine had sacrificed more than anyone realized, holding the weight of the monarchy's expectations while trying to raise her children with a sense of normalcy. The constant scrutiny was unrelenting. But now, in the silence of her own home, Catherine had to confront something far more personal. The stakes had changed. When Louis first refused to acknowledge Camilla as grandma, Catherine's immediate reaction was one of shock. Confusion flooded her mind. How could this be happening? It was a moment of profound disconnect between her youngest and Camilla, one that Catherine had not anticipated. There was no escaping the reality. Louis's refusal wasn't just a phase. It wasn't something that could be easily swept under the rug. For Catherine, it was a moment of clarity. Something was wrong. But what was it? Was Louis acting out because of the unresolved tensions between his parents and Camilla? Or was there something more lurking beneath the surface? Something that Catherine had yet to fully grasp. Catherine's maternal instincts kicked into overdrive, and as the days passed, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a child's rebellion. She had always prided herself on being an open, understanding mother, but now she was faced with a situation where she had no clear answers. Was Louis simply reacting to the internal family conflict that had been building for years? Or was this a sign of something far more dangerous? A fracture in the royal family's fragile unity? Had she underestimated the emotional toll the monarchy's demands had taken on her children? The questions piled up. Was this simply a phase, or was it an indication of a much larger fracture within the family? Catherine must confront the painful truths, even if it means risking her position within the royal family. Could a child this young truly understand the weight of royal expectations? Or was Louis simply acting out a much deeper, more instinctual rebellion? The answer lies in his upbringing, his spirit, and the family he's been thrust into. From the moment Prince Louis was born, he became the royal family's wild card, a cheeky, playful, and fiercely independent child. Unlike his more reserved older siblings, Louis seemed to embody the spirit of rebellion. His playful antics, endearing to some, became a symbol of youthful freedom in a family bound by duty and tradition. But beneath the surface of his innocent mischief, there was more at play. Louis was not just acting out for attention, he was pushing back against something far bigger than himself. A system that by its very nature demanded compliance and respect above all else. The very essence of his spirit seemed at odds with the world into which he had been born. From an early age, the expectations on Louis were immense. His very existence carried the weight of the monarchy's legacy. Every word, every move, every gesture was scrutinized. As a royal child, he was expected to conform, to follow the rules, to adhere to a rigid tradition that has governed his family for centuries. But Louis, with his bright eyes and mischievous grin, seemed to buck against these constraints. The pressures of being royal, especially at such a young age, weighed heavily on him. While other children could experience the freedom of childhood, Louis was constantly under the watchful eye of the public. His every action, whether joyous or rebellious, was captured and analyzed. It was a cruel paradox. The more he sought to express his individuality, the more the royal family and its traditions sought to rein him in. But was Louis's defiance a reaction to this pressure? Was it an outcry against the suffocating expectations of royal life? Or was there something deeper, something more personal at the heart of his rebellion? Louis had always been surrounded by love, especially from his mother, Catherine, who had never shied away from providing him with affection and warmth. But as the youngest, and with the family dynamics constantly shifting, Louis also felt the absence of a maternal figure who could offer him the kind of steady emotional guidance that he desperately needed. Camilla, now queen consort, had never been able to fully step into that role, leaving Louis to navigate his feelings without a clear path forward. In a family where duty was always paramount, love and warmth sometimes came second, and Louis's rejection of Camilla seemed to be his way of seeking something more. The monarchy's rigid traditions, the very things that defined his family, were the same forces that drove a wedge between Louis and the life he wanted. His growing desire for self-expression was in direct conflict with the royal family's expectations. The need to fit into a role that had been carved out for him long before his birth was suffocating. Louis wanted to play, to explore, to live outside the stifling norms of royal life. But what happens when the very institution that is supposed to protect and nurture you demands your conformity instead of your freedom? For Louis, it was a battle between his own spirit and the rules that sought to shape him. The more he rebelled, the more it became clear that he was fighting for something more than just independence. He was fighting for his right to be himself in a world that wouldn't allow it. William and Kate, though fiercely dedicated to their children, were also products of this royal world. They had spent their lives balancing the pressures of public duty with their own desires for personal freedom. In shaping Louis's world, they tried to instill the values of love, loyalty, and respect, while also encouraging him to express his individuality. But the challenge of raising a child within the constraints of the monarchy's expectations proved difficult. Louis, with his bold personality, seemed to reject their efforts, the tensions between his desires and their teachings growing clearer by the day. And then came his refusal to acknowledge Camilla as grandma, a moment that crystallized everything. It was more than just an innocent act of defiance, it was a declaration of independence, an act of rebellion that echoed through the halls of the royal family. What did it really mean? Was it just a child acting out? Or was it a profound rejection of the very structure that had shaped his life? But as Louis's actions start to raise eyebrows, it becomes clear that Catherine must step in, ready or not. What truths will she reveal as she tries to explain the situation to her family and the world? When Catherine finally opens up about her son's refusal, it's a moment that shifts everything. In an emotional, raw explanation, Catherine reveals a side of her family no one could have imagined. The tension had been building for days, weeks, perhaps even longer. The walls of the palace, which had once felt so secure, began to feel suffocating. Catherine, who had always carried herself with the grace of a queen, now found herself at a breaking point. In a quiet moment behind closed doors, she sat down with William to discuss their son's increasingly troubling behavior. Louis's refusal to call Camilla grandma was no longer a minor act of rebellion. It had become a cry for attention, an expression of something far deeper, something Catherine had never anticipated. She needed to understand it. She had to find a way to protect her son from the pressures that were slowly choking him. But the cost of that protection would be far higher than she could have ever imagined. Catherine's words, spoken softly yet filled with urgency, betrayed her inner conflict. Her protective nature had always been her guiding force. But now, as a mother, she was torn between two worlds. On one hand, she had to shield Louis from the harsh glare of the public eye, protecting him from the emotional toll of royal life. On the other, she had to reconcile his actions with the very tradition that demanded their compliance. Royal duty was not just a set of rules, it was a weight that bore down on every member of the family, and Louis, despite his youth, had already felt its sting. How could she explain to William that their son, in his own innocent way, was rejecting something far bigger than Camilla? Was it really about her, or was it something deeper? Catherine found herself searching for answers, but she couldn't ignore the painful truth that this refusal might have been a symptom of a larger rift, one that ran through their entire family. The more Catherine thought about it, the more she realized that Louis's refusal wasn't just a reaction to Camilla. It wasn't simply about the queen consort's role in the royal family. It was a reflection of the struggle Louis was experiencing within himself. He had been born into a world where duty always came first, where personal feelings were often sacrificed for the greater good. He didn't understand all the intricacies of this world, but he felt the weight of it. Catherine, too, understood this. She had spent years balancing her own feelings with the demands of her royal role. She had always placed her children's happiness above all else. But what happened when their very happiness was in conflict with their family's expectations? What happened when a child, no matter how young, started questioning everything they had been taught? Catherine's heart broke as she admitted to William the truth of the situation. Louis's rebellion, while rooted in the innocence of childhood, was also a sign that their family's carefully crafted world was beginning to crack. She explained how she had tried to protect Louis from this very reality, the unspoken tension, the fractured family dynamics. She knew that as much as she tried to shield him, the inevitable was happening. Louis was starting to see the truth, the cracks in the foundation. He was pushing back, not just at Camilla, but at the entire system that expected him to play a part in something he had yet to fully understand. The emotional toll on Catherine was immense. She had always been able to shield her children from the worst of the world. But now, as Louis began to reject the very essence of their royal life, she had to confront the painful reality that she might not be able to protect him forever. But there was one more revelation Catherine had yet to share with William, one that had remained buried deep within her. She paused, the weight of the words hanging in the air between them. "William, I understand why Louis is struggling," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I wasn't always part of this world. I wasn't always part of the royal family. I know what it feels like to have to sacrifice everything you've known for something you don't understand." Catherine's past was more than just the polished image of a royal duchess. She had known heartache, loss, and the pain of navigating a life that wasn't her own. She realized now that Louis's reluctance wasn't just about Camilla. It was a reflection of something she had carried with her for years. She had never fully shared the burden of her past with her children, but in that moment Catherine understood that Louis's struggle was in part a mirror of her own. As Catherine's revelations cast light on the hidden struggles of raising royal children, Louis's future within the royal family becomes uncertain. But what will the rest of the family do when they learn the truth? The real test is about to begin. Behind every royal family crisis, there's a prince torn between tradition and family. Prince William's silence speaks volumes. But what's really going through his mind as the situation escalates? William, the future king, has spent his life walking a fine line between the weight of duty and his fierce desire to protect those he loves most. He has always carried the mantle of responsibility, knowing that his actions and words would shape the future of the monarchy. But when it comes to his children, the balance shifts. The love he feels for them is undeniable, and yet, he is bound by an unyielding loyalty to a system that has placed his family under intense scrutiny. His internal conflict grows by the day. On one side, he has the kingdom to think of, the crown's expectations pressing against him, telling him to uphold tradition no matter the cost. On the other, he has a son, Prince Louis, who is beginning to reject the very fabric of those traditions. What does this refusal, this act of defiance, mean for the future of the royal family? For William, the pressure is unrelenting. His role as the heir to the throne demands that he maintain a perfect public image, that he adhere to a set of rules that have governed the monarchy for centuries. But privately, doubts begin to creep in. As much as he loves his family, as much as he believes in his duty to the crown, William is beginning to question whether the system that has defined his life is the right path for his children. His protective instincts as a father clash with the expectations placed upon him as a prince. He wants to shield Louis from the painful truths of royal life, to protect him from the harsh realities that have shaped his own existence. But with each passing day, it becomes harder to keep that balance. The future of the monarchy depends on the next generation, and the idea of a future without unquestioning loyalty to tradition weighs heavily on William's mind. Complicating his feelings is his complicated relationship with Camilla and Charles. As the family dynamic shifts with Camilla's rise to queen consort, William finds himself walking a fine line between his personal feelings and his royal obligations. His loyalty to his father, King Charles, is tested. He understands the need for unity, but the emotional scars of his mother's legacy still run deep. He cannot forget the pain caused by the breakdown of his parents' marriage, the years of public scrutiny, and the role Camilla played in it all. While the world may see Camilla as a figure of strength and grace, William's view is clouded by history. How can he, as a son, accept her as part of the royal family when so many unresolved emotions linger? And now, with Louis's refusal to acknowledge Camilla as grandma, William is forced to confront these feelings head-on. Does his son see what he sees? The fractures in their family that have been papered over for years? In quiet, private moments, William and Catherine have spoken at length about the future of their children's relationship with the monarchy. They've discussed their fears, their doubts, and the struggles they've already faced in trying to shield their children from the weight of their royal roles. Catherine has always believed in the importance of nurturing their children's emotional well-being, but William knows that this is a fight they can't win alone. The monarchy demands sacrifice, and their children will have to decide whether they can live within its strict confines. But the question is, how much will they sacrifice? How much of themselves will they be forced to give up in service of a crown that demands complete loyalty, even when the cost is personal happiness? For William, the tension is unbearable. As a father, he is torn between his love for Louis and his duty to protect him from a life that might be more than he can bear. As a prince, he feels the pressure to keep the royal family united, to uphold the values that have shaped the monarchy for generations. But at what cost? The emotional toll of this constant balancing act begins to weigh heavily on William. He cannot protect his family from the monarchy forever, but he will not abandon them. The question remains, what price will he pay for his loyalty to both his family and the crown? As tensions rise, William finds himself caught between two worlds. But can he protect his family from the weight of royal expectations, and at what cost? The story is far from over. How will the royal family react to Prince Louis's defiance? With Camilla's position already fragile, Louis's actions ignite a storm of political maneuvering and royal recalibration. The first shockwave hits Buckingham Palace, where Charles, as the head of the monarchy, faces a reality he never anticipated. His youngest grandson has refused to call his wife grandma. It's not just a child's harmless rebellion. No, this act of defiance reverberates far beyond the walls of their royal residence. It raises questions about loyalty, tradition, and the very future of the monarchy. For Charles, it's a bitter reminder of the fractured legacy he inherited, and the fractured legacy he now must preserve. He's no stranger to public scrutiny, but this feels different. It's personal. His own family is now challenging him in a way he's never expected. And while the world watches, Charles must face the uncomfortable truth: his own blood is rejecting the very institution he's devoted his life to. Camilla, who has spent years battling to secure her position, reacts with a mix of disbelief and hurt. For her, the rejection is not just a child's tantrum, it's a public statement that cuts deeper than anything the press could ever say. The youngest royal member, someone who should look up to her with affection, has turned away from her. For all her efforts to blend into the royal fold, to win the acceptance of the public and her new family, this rejection feels like a personal defeat. Camilla had spent so much of her life in the shadows of scandal, and now, when she finally steps into the light as queen consort, her own grandson delivers a stinging blow that no one saw coming. The emotional toll of it is heavy, and though she hides her pain behind the composure of a queen, it is clear, this defiance shakes her to the core. How can she maintain control over her new role when the youngest generation rejects her with such open disregard? Behind the scenes, royal discussions intensify. Advisors, handlers, and strategists gather in secret, urgently deliberating over how to spin Louis's refusal to their advantage. The monarchy, always concerned with public image, now has to figure out how to make this look like a teachable moment for the people. They can't afford a public scandal, especially not when Camilla's role as queen consort is still fragile. The narrative must be carefully crafted. The message must be clear: Louis's actions are nothing more than a childish whim, a phase that the royal family will weather like any other family would. There's talk of reminding the public of the unity within the royal family, how they are just like any other family, with their own struggles, but bound together by duty and love. It's a classic royal maneuver: redirect the narrative, control the optics, and ensure that the crown's image remains intact. But even with all the spin in the world, Louis's defiance cannot be ignored. It has opened a wound that can't be easily closed. As the royals work behind closed doors to minimize the damage, power dynamics within the family begin to shift. Louis's actions spark a chain reaction. William and Catherine, who have always tried to shield their children from the darker aspects of royal life, are now thrust into the heart of this crisis. They find themselves at odds with the royal expectations and their personal beliefs about what's best for their children. The pressure mounts, not just on Charles and Camilla, but on every member of the royal family who has ever felt the weight of tradition. How can they continue to function as a united front when the youngest generation is already challenging the very foundation they have built? As the palace scrambles to contain the fallout, the monarchy's carefully curated public persona begins to crack under the strain. But what happens when Camilla faces a challenge even greater than Louis's rejection? The ultimate test of loyalty begins now. What happens when a child breaks free of royal expectations? Prince Louis's act of defiance could change the monarchy forever and set a new precedent for future generations. The refusal of the youngest royal to follow the expected norms was never just a fleeting moment. It marked the beginning of a monumental shift. For centuries, the royal family had stood as a bastion of tradition, an unyielding symbol of continuity, duty, and respect for the monarchy's legacy. But now, Louis's rejection of the roles laid out for him threatens to unravel that carefully constructed image. The implications of his actions extend far beyond one isolated incident. This could be the spark that ignites a broader rebellion against the monarchy's age-old traditions, ushering in a new era. The family, long governed by an unspoken code, must now reckon with the reality that the next generation will no longer follow in lockstep with the past. The long-term impact of Louis's defiance is impossible to ignore. His actions, though seemingly small, have shaken the very foundations of the royal family's future. The monarchy's public image, built on respect and adherence to time-honored customs, is now at risk of being forever altered. What happens when the youngest member of the family questions the very system that has defined them for centuries? Prince Louis's refusal to accept the royal norms signals the beginning of a new chapter, one in which the monarchy will no longer be able to rely on the unquestioning loyalty of future generations. As he grows, the legacy of his rebellion will cast a long shadow over the royal family, forcing future monarchs to confront the consequences of tradition being challenged from within. It's no longer just about Louis, it's about what his actions represent. For William and Catherine, this moment forces a reckoning with their own choices as parents. They had hoped to raise their children with love, teaching them values of duty, respect, and responsibility. But as the monarchy begins to feel the ripples of Louis's rebellion, their parenting decisions come into sharper focus. How will they navigate the delicate balance of ensuring their children are prepared for the demands of royal life, while also allowing them the freedom to forge their own paths? The relationship between the Cambridges and the public will inevitably shift. William and Catherine, long seen as the future of the royal family, will have to reconcile their desire to protect their children with the inevitable scrutiny that comes with raising the heirs to the throne. The monarchy's public image is no longer in their hands alone. Their children, each with their own distinct personalities and futures, will play a larger role in shaping the royal family's evolution. This moment isn't just a turning point for the Cambridges, it ripples through the very heart of royal traditions. Louis's actions, small as they may seem, send a message that cannot be ignored. The next generation is not content to simply follow the rules. As more of the younger royals begin to assert their individuality, the monarchy will have to confront the reality that its traditions, which have held firm for so long, may no longer hold the same sway over future generations. Louis's defiance represents the beginning of a challenge to the very institution itself. Can the royal family adapt to a world where duty and tradition are no longer the sole guiding principles? Will the monarchy evolve, or will it crumble under the weight of its own rigidity? The emotional consequences for Camilla are profound. Her role, once precarious and fraught with public judgment, has slowly solidified as she ascended to queen consort. Yet Louis's rejection, so deeply personal and painful, forces her to confront her position within the family once again. For Camilla, the rejection by her youngest grandson represents a public blow to her newfound authority, one that threatens to undo much of the progress she has made in the eyes of the public and the royal family. The tension between her role as the new queen and her place within the family is now more complicated than ever. The royal family's evolving dynamics are not only affecting the future of the monarchy, but also challenging the delicate balance that Camilla has worked so hard to maintain. What does Louis's defiance really say about the shifting power dynamics within the royal family? It's a signal that the days of unquestioned loyalty to tradition are waning. The next generation is speaking up, and they are no longer content to quietly accept the roles they have been handed. The power to shape the monarchy is now in their hands. The question remains, will the royal family embrace this change, or will it hold on to an outdated ideal, one that no longer serves the family or the institution? The legacy of Prince Louis's rebellion is far from over, and as the royal family's story continues to unfold, the true costs of breaking tradition have only just begun. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.